This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
All right, so Stroz is always the one who sets up the rundown order, and occasionally I might comment and move things around, but I decided I was going to let this one stick because I think it's funny. Stroz, you set up the longest tease in show history. Last week we said I was going to fix college football, and you decided to put that at the end of this show. So I will fix college football as long as we don't get derailed in the middle segment again, which you never know.
Look, I thought that was what we do, right? So like we teased it last week, and now this week you got to stick around to the very end to find out how you're going to fix college football.
Remember when on the practice squad presents, what was it? I don't even remember the name of it anymore. The Lions Rewatch. We were going to do the 2013 season eventually. We just never did.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, yeah. I feel like eventually at some point in my life I will want to do that again, but I just don't think
John keeps asking me. He's like, "You can do that again, or what are you guys doing with that?"
Right? Like, we can't do it until the off season. I feel like it's weird to do it in the middle of the season.
It's just there's so much sometimes that goes on. Like you have so much going on in your current role as a producer for the show that you work for. I do this, like, this is my third podcast that I do. So like I've got 3 of these that I do, and they're all different in their own unique ways. And then on top of that, you've got your own things going on in your life. I'm working a full-time job that's sometimes like a full-time and a part-time job, depending on how many hours I stay there at night. So it becomes quite a bit. And then somehow you got to squeeze in, I don't know, what's the condensed version? The condensed version gives us 45 minutes?
Yeah. 30 to 45. But it seemed like the later in the series we got, as you got to like games that were closer to today, it seemed like they got a lot longer, pushed it a lot more towards 45.
So like you're like 45 minutes to an hour, and then you got to kind of digest all of it and come up with stuff to talk about from it. So it becomes quite a bit.
Yeah, it was fun when there was no sports going on, and I do think I would enjoy a rewatch. But it's the pacing of it. It's the like making sure you spend an hour and a half watching these, coming up with stuff, and then recording that when you have other stuff going on is a lot. When we started that, I was unemployed and there were no sports. So it was a much different world. And that's not to say we'll never do it again. But that's the longest tease ever because that was supposed to come out like probably 6 months ago. Also, middle segment today, I booked a flight home for a very short weekend trip home at the end of August. And I had a dilemma I felt like would make me very rude. I was concerned about something, so I want to get into that with Stroz, whether or not what I did was acceptable. I guess you could probably guess Stroz will never tell me that what I did was unacceptable. But first, starting this week on Friday, the Lions begin a 20-game preseason. The whole season is a giant preseason.
I like what you did there.
Well, and don't take that, I'm not even trying to insult or talk down on the Lions necessarily. Like, it's funny because I rooted for the Texans when I first got here, and like, I think I could root for them again. But the way that they do things right now is so comical that, like, I'm kind of looking forward to them sucking. I'm not going to say that about the Lions. I'm not rooting against them. I'm not anti-Lions guy. But the reason I say that it's a 20-game preseason is because while I will root for them to win in week 1 and early on, while, there's technically hope they could be a playoff team, I have a feeling things are going to get out of hand very quickly. And it's going to feel like a preseason where you're looking for very specific things to work the right way. And there's kind of 2 different angles I want to go at this. For one, Stroz, I know you said you're excited for Friday. Mm-hmm. I am somebody who generally gets, like, I would say I'm 75% of the way excited for football season by game 1 of the Lions preseason. This year, it's not hitting me quite like that. So I want to get into that aspect of it. But number 2, what are the things you're looking for in this 20-game preseason? Because that's what I think makes it a preseason. You're not looking for 10, 11 wins. You're looking for specific things. Can a wide receiver break away from the pack and actually be a part of your future? Does the defense look like it's not the worst defense in the history of football now that Matt Patricia's gone? Could Jeff Okudah be a good pick? Like, there's going to be things like that we're looking for. And I don't know, Stroz, do you have a specific, like, one of the 2 you'd rather start with?
Let's start with why I guess I'm excited for preseason football. So here's a little bit of a curveball, and this is change of game plan from the other night when we talked and we kind of put the show together. I'm now going to the game on Friday.
Okay, I mean, that's fun.
So the girlfriend surprised me with tickets. She's like, I'm getting tickets. We're going. This is what's happening. So she surprised me with tickets, and we're going on Friday night. So I'm excited to go watch this live and to have this experience with her. It'll be our first Lions game together. It's preseason football, so you take it for what it's worth. But I'm excited. So every time the preseason rolls around, I get excited for specifically the first preseason game. I don't really get excited for game 2, game 3, and when there was game 4, it was whatever. But for game 1, I get excited, and I think it's got different layers to it. One, obviously, football is right around the corner, so let's get pumped, okay? But 2, I had this nostalgic feel. I remember this time watching my first preseason football game with my stepdad in our living room in Detroit when he moved into my mom's house. So it kind of tugs on that a little bit. And I don't know, it was a really cool experience for me and him to kind of sit down and, I don't know, I think it was the Lions versus the Bills. It seems like they always play the Bills. I think it was Lions versus the Bills years ago. Teams. But I'm excited specifically this year for preseason football because I want to see this new incarnation of this team. I feel like this is the first time as a Lions fan, you've seen this organization basically flush everything.
It's a full pivot. Because even from Schwartz to Jim Caldwell, obviously you were changing a lot. But when we talk about like the full rebuild, what I say is since 2011, this is the first time we're going into a season and you're not saying, hey, like you need to make the playoffs. I understand some of those years, like we knew they weren't going to, but that was what we wanted from them. You don't feel that way this year. And basically they went from Schwartz to Caldwell to Patricia, and all 3 of those guys had the expectation, Schwartz by the end of it, that, hey, you're supposed to be competing for the playoffs. This is the first time you don't have that. And so like you said, it is. This is a complete hard pivot, rebuild, flushing out the, like whatever you want to call it, this is a completely different version of the team moving forward.
I feel like it's almost like, I don't want to say
if Stafford was here, you wouldn't feel that way though. I don't think.
No,
like
no,
Stafford
not at
being
all.
Traded is the reason. The Stafford era is defined by Matthew Stafford.
Exactly. Nope, you're. And
I don't think this has anything to do with Stafford. I think that's normal for any quarterback who spends 10 years somewhere.
I think what you have here is from the top down. It's all new. I mean, from you, if you want to count Sheila as being brand new, like the owner's new, right? Your GM's new, your head coach is new. You've got a ton of new players.
I don't think that matters, but
no, I know you don't. But what I'm saying is, it's all new. It's different, and I want to see what's going to happen with this incarnation of this team. And this is kind of that first foothold for them launching off, for them to basically take off and show us what they're going to do. And it just has me interested. This season, like you said, right? The whole year is just a preseason football game. We aren't expecting anything from these guys.
And again, I really don't mean that as an insult. No. I just think it's a funny way of saying what this really is.
Yeah, like there's zero expectations on this season. There are things that we're looking for, but there are zero expectations.
Right. I could come out of this season happy with a 3-win season. You know, It's going to be difficult. Like there are going to be difficult moments where you're like, man, I really wish I was rooting for wins. But I do think it's possible. So I hear what you're saying about why you're excited for the preseason. I will tell you, there was a small part of me that goes, I wonder if the Lions play while I'm in town. But I never looked at it because I was like, it'll be the preseason. So like, even if they are, whatever. Hearing you say you're going to the preseason game, I told you, I have very, very, like a weekend does not work for me. It is such a limited amount of time because I have way too many different friends in the Detroit area. Every single night of my trip is already planned. The Lions are in town that Friday when I'm in town, and I'm already thinking about asking the people I'm hanging out with Friday night if they would go to the game with me.
They would go with you?
Because I do think going is different.
I obviously buy them secondhand because they're much cheaper. So.
But anyways, so I hear what you're saying. The reason I don't agree, I feel differently, is that for one, you never really get to see what the team looks like in the preseason. Like I remember people many times in recent history, like being super scared because of performances in the preseason, and it honestly pisses me off. Like,
bro, do you remember when they were 4-0 in the preseason and then went 0-16 in the regular season?
No one cares. The thing is, no one cares when you do well. But like, you got people freaking out about Cade Cunningham because of the first game of the summer league. not so much Cade Cunningham, more Killian Hayes. We haven't seen enough to be writing off Killian Hayes yet. But like specifically, I remember the Patriots.
Close.
That's silly.
That's getting silly. Close.
Why?
Did you happen to watch the other night's game between Houston and
yesterday?
What's that?
Did not watch that one. I watched the first one.
The first one, okay. So I watched the first one. I watched the second one, and Killian Hayes just does not look like he fits. I mean, half the time when he's out there, I'm not sure what the hell he's doing.
I don't want to get too deep into this because it's not the topic, obviously, although we could consider it in the future. The reason I struggle with writing him off is because he was drafted as a project who only played half of the year last year. Mm-hmm. At times, he looked lost and like he didn't belong. At times, he showed flashes, a.k.a. he's a project. He's a young kid. He's not your future point guard. I don't think there's any debating that. Could he have a nice role on an NBA team? That's still to be determined. And like, I think it's silly to be writing off because he looks like he doesn't belong in a summer league right now. Like, he was drafted as a project. But anyways, back to the original topic. I just don't think you're really going to see the reincarnation of this team. I don't think that there's anything about how they're going to look on Friday that's going to feel real. The reason I'm not looking forward to it the way I normally am is because when you're fighting for the playoffs, I know the casual fan doesn't care about this, but man, I just think like roster battles, like position battles, guys fighting for jobs, that stuff can matter. You know, especially when you think about like, I don't even know his name. I know the Lions recently signed a wide receiver who was an elite returner a couple years ago. You know, like, could he make the roster as an extra receiver who's your primary kick returner? A guy who I loved back in the day was Joe Fourier, who only had one season that mattered, but dude put up 6 touchdowns in like a span of 4 weeks. And like, those kind of things can help push a mid-level team to the next level. I don't think those roster battles are going to matter so much this year. Because in reality, I'm looking for those guys to ball out in the regular season and show they're a part of the future. Like, if there's one thing that I'm really going to be watching closely in preseason, I think the only thing is the wide receivers. Because they're all shit. Every single one of them. So
don't hold back, B. Tell us how you really feel.
And the funny thing is, like, I think every single team has a wide receiver in the preseason who is like, he's just a preseason stud. Well, the preseason stud for the Lions many, many times over the years hasn't been able to make the team. There's no way that a wide receiver balls out in the preseason and doesn't find a roster spot. Like, you can't tell me there's a single receiver on the roster who's uncuttable. So if you ball out in the preseason, you're going to get a chance to show it in the regular season. And so that's like the only thing. I guess I'll say this too. You know how I feel about the running game. I have maybe not championed him enough. I think I'm Mr. Jamal Williams. When they signed Jamal Williams, as I always do, I pointed out how dumb it is to draft running backs. Mm-hmm. But it's not like when they drafted Adrian Peterson last year. When they drafted Adrian Peterson last year, it pissed me off because there's no value in signing a 47-year-old running back to steal carries from your second-round pick. Jamal Williams is the damn reason you don't draft running backs. Because I think Jamal Williams can be a starting running back. And you're not paying him very much. So I am very curious to see. I've heard he's had a great camp. Stroz, I think Jamal Williams may make it difficult to play DeAndre Swift over him. I think you could have a very even 50-50 split of snaps.
That's interesting.
I'm a very big Jamal Williams guy. I think Jamal Williams is a hell of a player.
I could see it happening. I think if it does happen, though, that's something that's probably going to happen closer to like game 4.
Oh, they're not going to want to do it. It's going to be something that has to be forced, but I think he could do that.
I could see that happening. I really could. And I think you're right. As far as the wide receivers go, I think we both agree they are trash. But this, I think there's basically like one guy who's uncuttable from that wide receiving core, and that's a and
he's a 4th round draft pick, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like if you cut your 4th round draft pick coming out of the preseason, that's a bad look. Mm-hmm. But it happens. You don't really see guys in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd cut, with very, very rare exceptions, 4th-round guys can get cut if they really just don't look like they have it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, to my understanding, has looked pretty good in camp. So, like, you're right.
Looked very good.
He probably isn't going to be in any trouble. But the point I was making is that on a normal roster, I don't think he's a guarantee. The only reason he's a guarantee on this roster is because nobody else is.
Yeah.
Rashad Perriman is probably pretty safe. And you know if he's safe?
I don't know. Here's the thing. He's been so underwhelming.
Oh, I know.
His career has been just So I would say maybe Terrell Williams is maybe a little bit safer than Rashad Perriman.
I think he's the most safe outside of, like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the point is they're not uncuttable.
No.
Any of them, except maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown. Anyways, we'll get into just a little bit. Like, what do you want to see in the real preseason, in the 17-game preseason that we'll get after these next 3 weeks? More than anything, like, what is the goal?
So, for me, I think the big overarching thing that I could pull out of, like you said, this 17-game preseason, or what would amount to be a 20-game preseason, we have a coaching staff that knows what they're doing. You leave this season feeling safe and secure with your coaching staff. You got a coaching staff that knows how to handle. Well, I think it happens with in-game decisions, right? So you remember when Jim Caldwell was here. Jim Caldwell was great Monday through Saturday. Sunday rolled around. It was like all of a sudden he forgot what he was doing. I think handling in-game situations and basically demonstrating your ability to handle whatever those situations are when they present themselves gives confidence to the fan base. Being able to utilize your timeouts well. You know, I mean, I know it's a small thing, and I know it sounds stupid.
I just think, like, you want to see your coach do those things, but, like, Andy Reid's biggest criticism over the years is that he doesn't handle timeouts well, and he's, been to 3 straight. No, I think he's been to 4 straight conference championships, 2 straight Super Bowls, and 1 a Super Bowl. He's been to, like, 6. I think there's a case to be made that Andy Reid is the second best NFL coach, I'll say, of the modern era. So, like, those things would be nice to see, Stroz. I just think it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, to come out of this season confident in your coaching staff. To me, the only way that you come out and say, damn, this coaching staff has it, is if the offense blows you away. Because, like, if the defense has it, you look at the defensive coordinator and say, that's awesome, look, we're excited about that. But, like, your defensive coordinator can get plucked. Dan Campbell is an offensive mind, although we do know he's clearly a big delegator. Mm-hmm. If the offense comes out and has it, then I think you can start to feel pretty good. But outside of that, and I just don't see that happening. I don't know if you saw, I tweeted about an hour ago. There's a hilarious chart that had QB accuracy and average depth of target. And Jared Goff, in a clean pocket, Jared Goff actually had the highest accuracy among all quarterbacks graded in a clean pocket.
How far was the pass downfield?
Average depth of target was 5.5 yards.
I was going to say 5 yards.
Stroz, if you go play catch with a friend, you're probably standing about 5.5 yards away. You're probably standing further than that.
Further than that, probably.
And so it was just comical, and that's what you're going to get out of Jared Goff. Like, it's hard for me to see this being a good offense. Maybe it's an offense that doesn't turn the ball over and that runs the ball well, but I just can't see it coming out of the season confident in the coaching staff. It is possible for them to lose me. I do not think it is possible for them to win me. The thing that I most want to see, it's tough. There's 2 things that I'm really hung up on. I've told you that the running game is important. Mm-hmm. If they don't have a successful running game, it makes me really nervous because it's not the offensive line and it's not the guys in the backfield. If you can't run the ball, I'm worried about the guys scheming it up. The other is I want to see defensive competence. And really all that means is, like, it's not hyperbole. The Lions were historically bad last year. When you look at their ability to get to the quarterback, it's some of the worst in the history of football. I just want to see the Lions measure like they belong in the NFL on defense. I'd really like to see Jeff Okudah take a big step forward. But, like, even outside of that, I just, like, because here's the thing. If the defense looks competent, it's possible it's better than we think. It's possible that Matt Patricia was just holding them back so much that they could look refreshed, that they could look like a very new defense without any major investments in talent.
See, I'm going to be interested to see on that defense. I mean, you're installing a whole new scheme. You're basically going from a 4-3 where you usually walk one extra guy up on the line to running a straight 3-4. And it's going to be interesting to see how guys like Trey Flowers, who usually plays with his hand in the dirt, is now standing up, and how he's going to adjust to playing that outside linebacker role.
Did he always put his hand in the dirt in New England?
Yeah. Yep.
I know that.
Usually he was always that D end, hand in the dirt, and he was just kind of there to kind of brag. Like, it's such a weird defense, man. Like, how do you not put pressure on a quarterback? Like, I just don't understand that. Just he's there to bracket, and then every now and then he'd get a sack because I felt like the pocket would get flushed to him. Anyways, like you said, guys like Jeff Okudah, Tracy Walker, Oruwariye. I want to see those
you know
guys.
What? That is something that we don't talk about enough. There are actually a decent amount of young investments in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
If Matt Patricia was holding them back, it's plausible the Lions could have probably not a elite secondary, but a good one, like an actual good one.
Yeah. I mean, like, so think about this. You remember the Dallas game where after the game, Dak Prescott came out and was like, yeah, I went through my reads, 2-3 times. Dak basically sat in the pocket for 25 seconds, just dissecting that defense 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Then he threw the ball. Could you imagine having to cover for that amount of time? Because there was zero pressure on him. So imagine cutting that in half, what that does for your secondary. Instantly, it makes them better. Just putting a little bit of pressure on the quarterback to possibly force a bad throw.
In the secondary, the defensive line and the linebackers, maybe you don't feel as much hope for, but I can see hope in the secondary.
So, like, here's the thing. I'm curious how this defensive front's going to look, right? So there's been a ton of talk about Aleem Mcneal and how this big bruising guy is super agile. Like, the talk around town is go to YouTube, type his name in there, and watch him run as a over a 240 pound quarter or running back, and just watch him with just these wheels that are one looks like a ballet dancer, and just how agile he is. It's crazy to me. So it's going to be, for me, it's interesting to watch a guy like him take that step forward and to see what he contributes. It'll be interesting to see what they can squeeze out of a guy like Michael Brockers. I think that Michael Brockers trade, highly underrated.
When Sue was in Detroit on defense, I remember watching Sue on every play.
Yeah.
I think there will be a lot of watching individual players on defense that we haven't done.
Yep.
At least I haven't done. Probably since
I agree.
Sue. We'll talk about the Lions, I'm sure, more as the season gets going. And I will fix college football coming up here in just a little bit. But first, so Stroz, I'm flying home for a very short weekend trip at the end of August. And it's, I don't know if you've ever done these short weekend trips, but you got to make it worth it when you're flying somewhere, right?
For sure.
So I wanted to get in on Thursday night instead of Friday morning, because flying Friday morning means like I'm tired all day, right? I wake up at 6 o'clock and I don't enjoy Friday the same way.
Not fun for anybody.
So I get in Thursday at 1 a.m. It's a work night, right? Most people, if not everyone I'm going to ask is going to work Friday night. I could go with an Uber. I'm not opposed to an Uber, but I know in some places an Uber is harder to get right now. So I was a little nervous about that at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. So I was debating with myself if it was okay to ask somebody to pick me up. Before we get into it, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think there's a problem with you asking somebody to
keep in mind, I'm not going, because this is big, I'm not going to visit specifically that person. Mm-hmm. Like, when I went to D.C., I got picked up at 1 o'clock in the morning, too. But I was going to visit that person. So I didn't hesitate as much because it was like, no, like, I'm here for you. So, like, yeah. But this time it's like, no, I'll see this person. But, like, they're going to be maybe a third of my time.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's an issue. I think what it comes down to is, 1, the relationship you have with the person. 2, you have to be comfortable enough, I guess, with yourself to ask them to come get you. This is what I'll tell you, right? You yourself could say, hey, can you come pick me up from the airport at 1 a.m? And I'll say, yeah, I'll come get you. I don't care. I don't care that you're going to see me or that you're not going to see me. Doesn't matter to me.
Oh, I could never. I could never ask somebody to pick me up and not hang out with them.
Let me. I'll tell you a story. All right. So I had he was one of the best men in my wedding. We hardly talk anymore. We've kind of mended some of our fences, but things went horribly sideways after I got married. Anyways, he would regularly, last minute, send me a message. Hey, I'm flying in. Can you come get me? And it would be like, I'd have to drop everything I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I'll come get you. Drop everything I'm doing. And there were times where I wouldn't sleep and I'd have to go to work the next day because he would come in at like 3 a.m. And of course, you've got to wait for him to get his bags. And then I got to take him to his mom's house. And then by the time I get home, I got to shower and go to work. So you just basically pull an all-nighter and you just go. And I had no problem doing it for him. It was what it was. So I think if you're comfortable enough asking them, and if you're on that level with your friends, there should be zero problems. I don't think you come off as rude. I think you're just asking a friend for help. And like I said, if your buddy won't do it for you, call me, bro. I'll come get you. I don't give a shit.
Well, Stroz, I appreciate it, and I'll tell you, like, ultimately, it's kind of, I don't know what the word is. Like, it definitely is nice, but I didn't realize how many friends would do that. Like, it seemed like a way bigger deal to me than maybe it was, because part of why I'm coming back, because I have a fantasy football draft on Sunday. I've been in this league since like 5th or 6th grade. I love being at this draft, and I've only been at one of the last like 4 or 5. And I wanted to come home anyway, so it kind of worked. And I mentioned to the people at the draft that I was coming back, and I asked them, like, hey, what are Ubers like in Detroit right now? I get in at 1 on a Thursday. And genuinely, like, that could sound like me trying to, like, test the waters for someone to pick me up. I mean this completely genuinely, Stroz. There wasn't a single part of me that was doing that. I was going to ask, there's one person I was considering asking, but I was not considering asking any of them. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4 different people from the league said they would come pick me up. And so, like, it kind of just, I don't know, it was kind of interesting to me, because I really didn't think that it was, like, to me, it was a major inconvenience to ask of somebody. And in fact, the person who I did ask, I told them ahead of time, I said, I'm coming either way, because I knew that, like, if it was a difference of me coming or not, that they would do it. And I didn't want to make them feel, pressured into doing it. And they said, yeah. And the thing is, like, I knew she would say yes, but I think part of what made me feel bad is that I knew she would say yes no matter what. Like, I could have asked her to pick me up at 4:30 in the morning and she would have said yes. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but knowing that made me feel worse about asking.
Is it because you know that she wouldn't tell you no?
Yeah, like, I knew that no matter what time it was, she was going to say yes. No, whether or not she wanted to do it, I knew that she would say yes. And that's what bothered me. And the truth is, you know what, Stroz? I know that she wants to do it. Like, I know that it's not, it's not there's no hesitation. But, like, I don't know. I feel, I said this a lot when I went to DC. I was telling the friend that I was there with, because he just, like, couldn't get over how many, like, times I asked about, like, is this okay? Like, hey, I forgot my toothpaste. Like, I didn't even ask him to use my toothpaste or use his toothpaste. I literally asked him when he was out, like, at the store if he could buy me some. He's like, dude, shut up. Just use mine. And I felt, like, bad about that. I'm just so cautious and so aware of inconveniencing anybody. Mm-hmm. And, like, I knew that the friend who I did ultimately ask would do it, but I don't know, man. Like, it felt like a big ask to me.
I don't think you have to look at it like that. I don't think you have to worry about it like that. And I get what you're saying, where she's going to do it no matter what, right? But I think if it was a big deal for her, she probably would be like, let me see, I'll look into it, or let me get back to you. But to me, it seems like she didn't even hesitate. She was like, yeah, I'll come get you.
I think it was literally yes, explanation point. Let me look at it real quick.
There you go. Like, I don't think you have to worry about inconveniencing her. I think what you can do if you want to try to pay her back.
It was sure explanation point.
Oh, see, look at that. She's excited to come do it. Here's the thing. You're going to spend, you said you're going to give her
probably about a
day,
time.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to spend some time with her. Just, when you guys go out, maybe buy her dinner, or maybe buy her a couple drinks to show her that you appreciate it. Or if you guys go do something, just pay for it. It just, there are ways you can take care of, you can reciprocate for a friend, So I don't think you're inconveniencing her. I don't think you're doing anything wrong, man.
No, I don't feel horrible about it, or I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But it was like, I asked somebody first. I was like, is it wrong of me to ask this?
No.
And they were like, well, I mean, I would pick you up at any time. So like, no, it's not. And I was like, I don't know, man.
Hey,
It's funny because on a day-to-day, I don't feel like I'm an inconvenience to people, but it's very clear that I'm cautious of being that.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think you have to realize that people value you, right? So like me and you talk regularly on this, on not just this podcast, but when we're doing our pre-show or whatever. Like, I love you, man. I think you're great. If you need me to come get you, I have zero problems coming to get you. If it's at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 4 a.m, I don't care if you need me to leave work to come get you. I hate my job. I'll leave work gladly to come get you. I don't think you need to worry about inconveniencing anybody. I think if it is an inconvenience, they'll let you know. And if they don't let you know...
Do you feel like that? Because I think that's the thing. That might be the thing right there, Stroz. I don't necessarily believe that they would let me know.
Well, I think you're hanging out with people who maybe are too cautious and maybe value what you're thinking. I don't know. I've had people basically just tell me like, yeah, no, I can't come do it. And like, or no. I feel like you get to this level with your friends.
The thing is, Stroz, I wouldn't say no to like, no matter what the situation is, I would almost definitely not say no. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, I look out for the other person who
I got you.
Wouldn't say no.
And that makes sense. But I don't know. I think there comes a point in your relationship with your friends where you guys can just talk to each other. Or you should be able to just talk to each other. And if it's going to inconvenience you, or if you have something going on, you say, I can't. Let me put it like this. My best friend, his birthday is on Friday. He's got a property that's about 4.5 hours away. And he's invited me to come up there at least 17 times. You know how many times I've gone up there? None. Not one time. His birthday is this Friday. He's like, hey, man, if you want, come on up. That'll be a good time. He's like, if you want, bring all the dogs. Mind you, between me and the girlfriend, we've got 4 dogs. He invited her. He's like, come on up. We're just going to kind of have a small celebration for my birthday, and it'll be a cool time. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll let you know. But you know what?
But you didn't say no.
But no, well, I haven't talked to him in the last couple of days. But he knows I'm not going. Because I'm not driving 4.5 hours out of my way to go up there.
No. You're not going to say no. You're just going to pretend that the conversation never happened.
No, I'm let me tell him right now. I can tell him right now and I can show you.
You can't show me. Your camera's been off for like the last 15 minutes.
Shut up. For real?
Yes.
You
can't tell when your camera's off?
No. My blue light is on.
There is, Stroz, on Skype, there is a preview of your face in the corner.
Because I had another page up. I had a roster up for what we're getting with the line.
See, I leave it up the whole time because I'm always looking at your face. So
I didn't know that.
I want to see if it goes away.
Dumpster fire. I usually have you in the small window. So like, you know how like when you put something over the, I look at you. I don't ever look at.
Oh, you mean when you're on other pages? Okay.
I don't ever want to look at me. You get to see me all the time.
We can move on in just a second. I do want to ask you: have you ever asked for to be picked up at an inconvenient time like that?
Yeah, normally I ask my mom though. I usually go to my mom first.
You know who would tell me no? Like unquestionably, my dad. There's not
so weird to me.
Not only would he say no, he would probably like try to hold back laughter at the fact that I even asked him. My dad is asleep by like 8 p.m. There's not a shot in hell he'd pick me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know if he'd pick me up at 1 o'clock in the morning if it was the only way that I would be coming home. Like, it's just not doable for him.
That's so weird to me. Like, I don't know. My mom will normally, like, if my mom can't do it, she's just like, no, I can't do it. But normally I go to my mom.
I mean, he wouldn't, like, make fun of me, but he would just be like, there's just no way. Like, it's just, I can't. He'd probably say something along the lines of, like, I want to, but, like, I can't.
But I can't.
And to be honest with you, it would be dangerous because he already, like, isn't super comfortable driving when it's dark, and he would be so tired that late at night. It is genuinely, like, it would be very, very difficult for him to actually do that. But like, I couldn't even consider that option. Clearly, I had a lot of options, it turns out. One very quick story. When I flew into DC, I was supposed to get in at 1 o'clock in the morning, but my flight was delayed, and I didn't get in until 2. And the friend who I went to visit works nights. He doesn't get off till midnight normally anyways. And he worked that night. He was working from home, but I thought he was working at the office. So his plan was, as soon as he got off of work, he was going to drive to the airport. Well, When my flight got delayed, that was no longer, going to work. So I thought he was going to have to go from work to home and then back to the airport to come get me. And I didn't want him to have to do that. Mind you, he's in D.C. I'm at the Baltimore airport. It's about an hour drive. I said, don't worry about it, man. I'll Uber. He was like, no, you're not fucking Ubering an hour away at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I was like, yeah, dude, I got it. Don't worry about it. Even though for him, it wasn't even that late. We ended up staying up. We got back to his place around 3 and we ended up staying up till 5 o'clock. It was nothing, but I don't know.
You're the most courteous guy. I don't know if you realize it or not. By the way, my camera's not going to work for the rest of this episode. So
that's fine.
Black screen.
No, it's all good. I know.
I didn't realize it went out. I'm sorry.
It happened.
But you're the most courteous guy. Seriously.
To a fault.
You never want to inconvenience anybody.
Unless it's about your opinion. That's the one thing. I'll trash your opinion.
Yes, you will.
But in every other way of life, I will try my best to not inconvenience
you. You will put your pants down and shit all over somebody's opinion for sure.
This isn't that related, but it's I was thinking about it the other day. I am very, very what is this, episode 78? In the whole history of the podcast, how many offensive jokes have I made? Not offensive to you, but ones that could be construed as offensive.
Maybe one. Maybe. I don't.
It's something I very actively try not to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm super accepting of them. Given the to me, it's just very big. You have to know your audience.
Yeah.
The people that are listening to you, are they aware that what you're joking about is not actually acceptable to joke about? And if the answer is yes, then that's fine. You're allowed to joke about it. I was just thinking about that. It's similar. I don't generally. It takes a lot for me to get offended by a joke, but I won't be the one to go there usually. I don't know. I've just been thinking about that this week. But I can fix college football for you if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's pay off this tease.
So what was the original, what started this? Oh, it was conference realignment.
Yes.
Yeah, as the SEC is becoming a power conference and, there's thought that or I don't know if thought's the right word, but there was discussion that the Pac-12 and Big 12 had about possibly partnering up, the Big 10 maybe possibly trying to grab some people. And, the idea of a couple power conferences is something that's been around for a while. It's not new. And I would be all for kicking the small schools out of college football. And college football, and this is not a unique thought. I'm not the first person to have this. But college football would be so perfect, Stroz, for a European relegation system. Because all of a sudden winning is it's so important. Where does Michigan belong? In my brain, the way it works, since we've always had top 25, is each conference, each tier is 25 teams. If you wanted to make it 40, I think you could probably do a 3-tier system, top 40 to 80 to 120. You could probably do something like that. Mm-hmm. But my gut says 3 tiers of 25. And I don't have to watch Alabama play a bye week before they play Auburn every year. That is one thing that would hurt, is you might start to struggle with rivalry games. And you know what I think I would do? I would allow, so you have 3 tiers, 4 tiers, 5 tiers, whatever you have. You are allowed 1 out of tier matchup, and it must be no more than 1 tier below you.
So you put some limits on it. Okay.
So if Auburn's in tier 2, Alabama can still play Auburn.
So I think
when Michigan's in year 2, they can still play Ohio State.
Yeah.
But you only get 1 of those.
So I think that cleans up a lot of the Alabama playing Sister Christian of Baton Rouge.
Well, that's exactly. I don't want to watch Alabama play. To be honest, it's not. I don't just want to watch them not play or play Citadel. I don't really want to watch them play Vanderbilt either.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give them 1 a year. You get 1 game a year below your tier, and you're still not. I'm not letting you play a team outside of the top 50. And I don't need to go too deep into this idea. It's not unique. I think it would be so much better for college football. The games that you would have on every week would be incredible. There are some people of the belief that the college football playoff has ruined college football because now the top teams can afford to lose a game. What I would tell you is that's because when there were only 2 playoff teams, it didn't crown the best team as champion. You could be the best team and lose a fluke game and you weren't the champion. It's a silly way to do things. Yep. I want things decided on the field, but I want you to have to play good games. Right now, there's so much that still has to be decided in in a meeting room, right, where you discuss what you think about the matchups. If it's all done in the top 25 and you can't play anybody outside of that, there's no true bye week games. The couple questions I'm curious to answer. One, how much time does Michigan spend in Tier 1?
None.
Do you think they're never top 25? I think they're the kind of team that constantly bounces between the bottom of Tier 1 and the top of Tier 2.
So if you have like, if you're going off of like the coaches poll or something like that, right? Basically just kind of like a judgment call. They're name recognition, and that's why they get basically put into the top 25 all the time. It's just because some SIDs like, oh, Michigan, cool, let's vote them in, and then they get put in because the coaches aren't voting on the top 25. They're too busy actually beefing up their programs and doing good things, unlike Jim Harbaugh. But I think you're right. They would be the team that kind of bounces a lot. Currently, I would say zero. They would spend zero time in Tier 1. I don't know, man. This is the thing. This is the only. I think this might be the only issue I have with what you want to do by having this tier. I think mega conferences are great. I've been looking forward to mega conferences for years. I wanted 4 16-team mega conferences, and what you do is you zero out all of those non-conference games. You get rid of like when Michigan will play, I don't know, Colorado State, or when Michigan State will go and play Louisiana Lafayette. You get rid of all of those, and you can only basically play teams that are in your conference, and whoever wins their conference can then go on and play in a playoff. That's what I want, and that's what I would like. I get what you're saying by top 25. You can only play top 25. You can move one tier down, or you can move one tier up.
Once per year.
However you want to do it. Yeah. I like that. I think that's.
But you understand in this system,
flexibility.
You understand in this system that year to year the tiers switch, right?
Switch. Yes. Now, my question is, how would that happen though? Is that getting voted on? Are you able to figure that out? I mean, have we
in terms of where they're ranked? No, you change the whole system. I don't know exactly how European soccer works, but it's a records thing, obviously. Like
it's points.
Bottom 4, bottom 6, I don't know. If you're doing 25 teams, I'd probably honestly bottom 6, bottom 8. I think you could make some pretty significant change. I think that's about the right number of teams, and then top 6, top 8. And how about the top 6 or 8 or however many move up? That could be done in a playoff. Can you imagine a Tier 2 playoff? Let's say 6 teams get moved. A Tier 2 playoff, 12 teams. Everyone who wins the first round gets moved up. Or you know what? Screw it. You don't even need a playoff. Just 12 teams, 6 games. 6 games and the 6 winners get moved up. Think of how big those TV games would be. Michigan's in a Tier 2 playoff game to try and get moved up to Tier 1 next year. I also think where this becomes like really interesting, Stroz, the brands don't mean as much anymore. If Michigan's forced into Tier 2 because they're just not good enough, do you think Harbaugh continues to keep his job?
No, he should have been fired this year.
But he wasn't.
I know.
In the world where Michigan, the big brand that Michigan is forced to accept that they're a Tier 2 football team. I do not believe Jim Harbaugh keeps his job. I don't. And I think that's the case across the board. When you watch Texas fail to be a Tier 1 football, it would change college football incredibly. And you'd also, you know what else it would do? Because like when I talk about like I'd kick out a bunch of schools, like I don't need Illinois in Division 1. There are probably years where Illinois is a better football team than Michigan. I think it would help schools like that who, you know, I don't know who it is. Maybe Illinois is not the example, but like Michigan State, when they were so good for a while, you know, when they're constantly competing at the top of Tier 1, I think it allows the school to grow its brand in a way that the current system doesn't. Because in the current
team system, like Coastal Carolina, for example.
In the current system, you only get to play a couple games a year that matter. It is such a slow process. Like Michigan's brand exists because it's been around for so long and it became bigger than it ever was. But now because you play so few games that matter, there's very little chance to change the brand perception. I'm telling you, if you dominate in Division 1 or in Tier 1 of this system, even if you're not winning championships, but if you're constantly towards the top, towards the playoff area of Tier 1, and you're a nobody right now, I absolutely believe the brand value of your school would change in a matter of a couple of years. I think this would be so much better. The problem with college football is it doesn't matter who you root for. There's no more than 3 to 4 games that you care about in regular season. You could say you care, but I'm sorry, Alabama's not playing 5 meaningful games. They're not. And I want to eliminate that. I want the best schools to play meaningful football every week. And it just hasn't been that way in my lifetime. I don't know if it's ever been that way, but it's definitely not been that way in my lifetime.
I don't mind it. I think it's interesting, and I think it could work. The only issue is, here's the thing with college football. It always comes down to money. It's all about money.
I don't want to bother talking about the feasibility. It's not going to happen. That's a waste of time.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it.
Yeah, no, we could.
I think it could possibly work, and I think it could generate a ton of revenue for those schools in the top 25. It's those other schools. It
would, but the problem is, of the top 25, how many schools are confident that they would always be there?
Oh no! Well, that's
are there more than 10 schools that are confident they would always be in Tier 1? Are there even 10?
So it'd be Alabama,
Clemson, Ohio State. Can I also suggest something?
Where do we go after that?
Clemson and Alabama obviously are, and Ohio State, the 3 teams we named, they're all on a tier way above anybody else. You could probably take Ohio State off that. You could really say Alabama and Clemson. But I think forcing them to play top 25 opponents every single week would allow the other teams who are so far behind the chance to climb. Because if Alabama's playing big teams every single week, they're inevitably going to lose a game or two every year. You're going to stop having the undefeated seasons be the norm for the champion. I would say the schools that are confident they're always top 10, it's those 3. Maybe you can include Oklahoma. Top 10, I think that's probably pretty safe. That might be it. So if you're not one of those 4 schools, it's just a scary idea, the thought that you could fall out of Tier 1. Because I'm curious, Stroz, I wanted to ask you this too. I do want to talk some about Michigan in this. Would you watch Michigan in a Tier 2 schedule every year?
It's a tough question.
Is there a case to be made it's actually more entertaining? I think there might be.
I think the games would be more entertaining. Oh, look, my camera started to work. I would watch. The games would be more entertaining, Stroz, and there would be more on the line. Because as a Michigan fan, you know the national title's not on the line. But if you're in Tier 2 and what you're playing for, you're playing to be in the top 12, so you can get a 1-game play-in to get to Tier 1. Yeah.
You're invested as hell, Stroz. And here's the thing. Top 12 out of 25, you might only need to win 7 or 8 games. But if you get those 7 or 8 wins, you get a chance. You get one chance to play a team to win that game and go into Tier 1 next year and dude, I think this would, in this world, college football might be my favorite sport.
And for those who don't know, B doesn't necessarily care about.
Dude, it's all about the investment. The NFL is the best sport in the world. The game is fun. All right, I'll stop world, but best sport in the country for sure. And the game of football is great, but what makes football so incredible is how important every game is. Mm-hmm. It's such a short schedule, every game matters. Well, you have that short schedule in college football, but you're playing our sisters of the poor 7 times a year. Mm-hmm. If you were playing games against teams that could beat you every single week, college football would be better. I'm taking it a step further and saying, not only is there investment of the fact that like every game matters, but the investment of what you can win and what you can lose is crazy. Sure, if Michigan's in Tier 2, they're playing for that chance to get to Tier 1. They're also playing to avoid having to play Western Michigan 8 times a year in Division 3. Because I'll tell you what, I would watch Tier 2 Michigan. I don't know that I'd watch Tier 3 Michigan. I'm not watching Michigan play directional schools every year. Mm-hmm. The investment is insane. And I know that that's the case in soccer. I know that the investment for the teams at the bottom and the teams at the top becomes so much bigger because of the way the system works. I'm creating both that system and I'm putting teams against you that actually fit. It's ridiculous to have 150 teams and have one play 125. It's ridiculous and a waste of everybody's time. Just don't even play. I'm being completely serious. I would rather Alabama play 6 games than play 5 of them that are meaningless. And I'm counting Vanderbilt as meaningless.
I think it would become much more interesting. And I think if you're a Michigan fan, this fits, it works, right? Because if you're a diehard Michigan fan, you're watching anyways, right? Like, I don't know,
Stroz,
2 years ago.
I can literally see you at the watch party for a tier 2 playoff game to get into tier 1, just fucking losing it on every single moment.
Yeah, for sure.
I think those might be the most hyped games of the year. Not even the national championship games, but the tier 2 play-in games.
I think it's interesting. I really do like this. Like when you proposed this a couple weeks ago to me, I was like, this is interesting.
The funny thing is I've thought a lot of it out on the fly. I didn't have the tier 2 play-in games decided yet. Because the one problem with the tier 2 play-in games is that you can be the 12th best team and technically get advanced. But the way I'm looking at it is if you're the 12th best team and you're playing the first best team and you beat them, you deserve it.
I don't know, man. I like it. I look, college football is changing. There's a ton going on. Like I said, I'm pro mega conferences, but I kind of like this because it's fluid. Your top 25 teams are going to change every year. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that Alabama's going to fall out of it, but that bottom's going to shuffle, and maybe you have a team that rises up. And it's similar to Leicester City 2-3 years ago in the Premier League. I don't know if you watch any Premier League soccer.
No, but I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
So it's like that. That was a team they were nothing. They were like regularly also rans. And then next thing you know, they end up winning the English Premier League. I think since then they've fallen back down a tier, but it has the ability to have that Cinderella story, which the thing is the best thing about sports.
I think like Alabama would still be dominant, Clemson would still be dominant, but I do think it would change things. It's a lot easier because the thing is Alabama gets one loss. One loss doesn't matter. And they only play 3 or 4 games where a loss is even on the table. If they had to play a full schedule where losses were possible, I think you'd see the top of the country teams be brought down a peg. And that would give everybody else a chance to catch up. I'm telling you. I don't think it's good. I think it's like incredible. I think this would be the single best thing that could happen to college football on a like grand scale. It would hurt the teams who fall to tier 2 and tier 3. But for the popularity of college football as a whole, I think it would be the single best thing that could happen.
I like it. Obviously, like we discussed, this isn't going to happen, but I think it would be interesting to kind of see how it would play out and to watch it happen. And I think that the big issue with all this, right? Again, money is part of it, right? How do those tiers allocate their television revenue? And then what happens to...
They're all separate leagues.
So like the Big Ten's still going to exist.
No. You have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whatever.
Okay.
And tier 1 has a TV deal with ESPN, and tier 2 has a TV deal with ESPN, and tier 3 has this TV deal. Who do you think ESPN's going to pay the most for their TV deal?
Obviously, tier 1, obviously.
So tier 1 splits the money from the TV deal among the 25 teams, and that makes everything more important. If you're not good enough to be in tier 1, you make less money. Fuck you. Like, you don't deserve the money. You're not good enough to be in tier 1. Get off my fucking TV. And you know what, Stroz? Not only would ESPN pay more for tier 1, they pay more than they're paying right now because they wouldn't have to choose to show Alabama Vanderbilt.
They wouldn't have to show games like Rutgers versus Maryland.
You
would
would never have a bigger disparity. Disparity? That's not the word I'm looking for. Discrepancy? Disparity or discrepancy. They both work. I just kind of combined them. You never have a bigger disparity than 1 to 25 with the exception of the one game. You get one crossover game a year. I don't know how you handle the TV deal for that part. I don't really care. It's such a minimal aspect. You probably just go with the home team. It's on the home team's TV deal, but I don't know, man. It's just I get that some people love college football, and that's fine. I'm telling you, what my idea would make it even better for you and fix it for people like me.
I like it.
All right, next week we break down why Stroz is throwing Killian Hayes in the trash. We ask what he thinks of the new look Lions, which probably, Jared Goff might play 3 snaps. I don't know if we have any word on what he's going to do or not, but
12 passes. He's out there for 12
think?
Passes. No.
I think
maybe 12 snaps.
He'll probably get a series, I would if he plays. I don't know if he's even going to play.
No, he's playing. He's already been said he's playing.
He'll probably get a series, maybe 2. All right. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, do you think it's important for him to get those series, get those snaps?
I think that he can take the equivalent of the same snaps playing catch in his driveway with his son. I don't know if he has a son, but it's the same damn thing. My goal for, you know what? Vegas should have odds over under longest attempted pass by Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, yeah.
17 yards.
That's where I was